I think I'm literally just going to start off where we left off talking before we started recording. I was explaining that I cut my finger.
And I said he didn't do a good enough job, clearly.
Cut my finger the other day on a razor blade. And I started whining and complaining. And as I was looking in the mirror, I remembered we had this podcast coming up and I just felt like a little baby, bro. A little baby. And it made me think about how many excuses people make in life for them not doing enough, for them not succeeding and winning. Before I even get into that rabbit hole, I just want to say welcome, bro.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Nick.
I'm so glad to be here. And as well, I just am amazed by your transformation. We've met a short period of time ago, and to see your level of execution and communication and the way that you're building your brand and serving your clients, I think it's really inspiring. And what you've achieved in a year is really motivating. So thank you for being you, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Nick Santonastasso, he is an absolute inspiration. He's worked with gentlemen like Tony Robbins for 4 years, wasn't it? And look, honestly, I'm not even going to give a long-winded introduction. I had that scripted at first, but I got rid of the teleprompter because I just want this to be a natural conversation. And I want you to guys just to check out his Instagram if you want to learn a little bit more about Nick. But we have about 30 minutes. And what I want your thoughts on as a communication coach is communication and mindset in particular. Because when I first met you, something that I was astounded by was your level of presence and your radiance. Because I meet people all the time. I talk to my clients every day as a communication coach. I notice things. You have to be socially intelligent, right? But when I spoke to you and I met you, I could tell that you were switched on, man. We were at a dinner table and sometimes I would make a joke, like a sarcastic joke, and you would pick it up before everybody immediately. I'm like, this guy's switched on, man. So how did you end up becoming such a great communicator?
That's a great question, and thank you for the compliment. The truth is that a lot of my success and a lot of what I've built came from this feeling of feeling inadequate and not enough. I think it was this deep-rooted programming due to being born with no legs, one arm, and kind of being picked last or counted out. You know, even from the moment I was born, doctors said that I'd never feed myself, I'd never dress myself, I'd never be independent. Even going into school, everybody throws beliefs at you like you'll never be an athlete, you'll never have a girlfriend, you'll never have this, you're not that. And when I got into communication, I'm 28 years old. When I got into communication, roughly around 21 years old, not directly, but indirectly, I heard things like, he'll never be over a $5,000 speaker. He has no business experience. He only gets stages because he's disabled. Like, I've heard all of this. And instead of letting those beliefs destroy me, I flipped them. And so if they said I wasn't, tactical enough, I said, okay, I'm going to become tactical. If they said I only get stages because I'm disabled, I'm going to become such a master at communication where the difference between an amateur and a master is very dominant or prevalent, and you're going to know who's a master. And so to answer your question, I became a master communicator because I never felt like enough. And my hallucination was that if I built big business and I built big following and I got a bunch of money, finally I'll be loved. And so a lot of my career, 8 years into this career, came from a place that wasn't sustainable. It came from a place of pain, which can get you a lot of places. And I think you and I probably share a lot of things in common where pain drove us, but there then comes to a point where that's not sustainable and you have to create from a place that you're already enough. But to answer your question, a lot of it came from not feeling enough. And so I went super deep. I always talk about there's two types of people. You have puddles and you have wells. Everybody starts off as a puddle. But if you stay a puddle, one day you'll be exposed by a scenario, a situation, or a person. But a well is someone who is an inch wide and a mile deep, meaning they pick 1, 2, or 3 things and they go really deep on those things. That's their mastery. And so I just spent 8 years of my life studying communication, human behavior, and psychology. That's why people pay me a lot of money for those things. And so the more you learn, the more you earn. You know, I can drop all these rhymes, but the more you learn, the more you earn. And I stayed in my lane for 8 years and developed this well of knowledge. So now I'm the expert, and now I'm the authority. And when you become the expert and the authority, people will pay you a lot of money to condense time, right? So I just stay in my lane, and I always tell people I'm one step away from stupid, because I'm not trying to learn a bunch about everything. I'm trying to learn a bunch about just a few topics. So we can go as deep as you want in those, but I'm an open book for you.
Right. I love it. I can relate to the pain being a source of inspiration for growth for sure, because it's just that in itself is a well of wisdom if you can tap into it without being attached to it, right? So I can definitely relate to that. What would you say to people who, because I have consultation calls pretty much on a weekly basis with people who potentially want to work with me, and sometimes I hear some excuses like, you know, I'm single because maybe I'm not rich enough yet, or I don't have the social circle that I want because I'm too short, or I'm unattractive, or because of my accent, this and that. And when I hear people say these things, I have pretty strong opinions about this, but what would you say to that? People who just make excuses based on their looks.
This is a very great question. Younger Nick would have a more harsh response. It would be very direct, and I'd probably think they're quite stupid. But now at this level, the first thing that I lead with is compassion, because they don't know that they're stuck in their own programming. They don't even know that that's holding them back. And so I have a level of compassion and empathy, because people only know what they know, and most of their blocks are unconscious. And so have some empathy and compassion, because they can't even see it, and that's why they're on the call. Yep. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what comes to my mind is, humans know of the law of cause and effect, but they leverage it in the wrong way. So I'll explain very quickly. The law of cause and effect, right, states every cause has an effect and every effect has its cause. But we tend to leverage this law to play victim, meaning the reason why I don't have the social circle is because I'm short. Look at me. I'm shortest, got the highest social circles, right? So eliminate that belief. But the reason why I smoke is because my family smokes. The reason why I'm overweight is because my family's overweight. And so what we're doing is we're casting blame on a specific event or situation or environment to rationalize of why we are where we are. The real transformation happens when you go from cause and effect to causing the effect. And what causing the effect states is that you take accountability over every single aspect of your life. The reason why you don't have the social circle is because you don't believe you can have the social circle.
Yeah.
Or the reason why you don't have the social circle is because you're not a valuable man. You're not valuable enough. You have to work on yourself. The reason why you're not in shape is not because of your big bone genetics. It's because you eat you eat terrible and you don't work out. So the moment you go from cause and effect to causing the effect, you go from the passenger seat of life to the driver's seat of life.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I would say is, like, these people don't know that they're in that programming. And what's really valuable for them is shifting focused and focusing on the evidence of why they can have the social circle versus why they can't have the social circle.
Yep.
We don't get the life we have, we get the life we focus on. And so all of us can focus on all the reasons why we don't have the social circle versus all the evidence of why we can have the social circle. And sometimes people just need evidence because they weren't surrounded by the possibilities that it was possible.
Yeah, their brain needs evidence.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
To instill that belief. But you said something, Nick, which I think would actually trigger a lot of people, thankfully. And you said you aren't valuable enough, maybe. Maybe you need to be more valuable. I posted a story yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, where I was explaining, here's how you attract a high-value friend network, a social circle. I had so many DMs of people saying you can't place value on friendship. And I think that that's actually false. Because if you meet somebody who's constantly draining you and taking from you, not adding any value, by the way, value isn't just monetary, it's in vibes. It's in energy and emotion and support and inspiration as well. Value comes in many, many forms. I think it's extremely unhelpful, actually, to believe that we don't need to provide value or have value in order to build a social circle. What would you say to that?
I think 100%. I think success isn't something that you pursue. It's something that you attract by being an attractive figure. Success is something that comes to you when you are valuable enough and the opportunity meets the right person. But also, high net worth individuals and high level individuals are very, very conscious of where they spend their time and energy, because it's our two most valuable assets. We can never get them back. And so if you are on the pursuit or in the pursuit of becoming a high net worth or high value individual, and you're still spending time with people who don't provide value or are bringing you down, what that tells me is you don't value your time and energy, or you don't think you're worth the high level circle anyway. And so I firmly believe that relationships, they need to be uplifting and they need to provide value. And like you said, it's not just money, but it's your vibration. It's the insight. It's the presence. It's the aura. It's the conversations. And so I totally believe that you need to provide value in order to get in high level social circles. But also this goes deeper than just like value. This goes into a deep rooted program that will help a lot of you elevate your life. And that is the programming of finding where the needs are and serving people. All of my success, the reason why I'm this successful is because I believe I'm just an offering to the world. My human experience is partially for me, but majority of my human experience is for me to give myself to the world.
Wow.
And I firmly believe that if I can build myself into the greatest version of man and give it to you, I can have anything that I want in life. So if you start stepping into the identity that I'm an offering to the world, then you ask the question of what am I offering to the world? And if you have nothing to offer the world, guess what? You'll get trampled over. And so let me just plant a seed for those that are listening. Where in my life, with my skills and my expertise, can I condense decades into days for people? And if I don't have an answer, go find something that you're going to dig your well deep on so you can then collapse time for people. Because I can assure you, when you can collapse time for people, you become really valuable. And that's when you get into high level rooms. You know, you and I, like if we weren't at a specific level, we wouldn't be friends, right? We wouldn't want to spend time together. You provide me great insight and I can provide you great insight. But if there's no value, why would we even spend time together? And so that's just my take. But be an offering to the world. Build yourself into the greatest man and the greatest woman you can be. And every day ask yourself, how can I serve the world? And you watch the networks, the resources, and the people come into your life that are ready for your help, are ready for you.
Love it. I have 2 follow-up questions for you.
Sure.
First of all, what are your biggest pet peeves?
My biggest pet peeves? That's a great question. I think it's lack of presence. Pisses me off. Lack of presence in the sense of, if we're here, we're here.
Yeah.
Right? If people are in the middle of a conversation and they're checking their phone or they're distracted, I think it's a sign of disrespect. And I think it's a sign of a pattern, right? I'm a big pattern guy. And I understand that if I identify one pattern in business, then that pattern bleeds into your relationships. It bleeds into your fitness. It bleeds into your brand. Absolutely. How you do one thing is typically how you do everything. Yep. So if you lack presence in a business meeting, you probably lack presence with your family.
Yep.
You probably lack presence with the things that you're eating. You probably lack presence within the gym, right? And so I think lack of presence, but also that could come from a deep-rooted conditioning of me that I just want to be loved and seen. So see me, right? Just be present with me. But also, check this out. Most people are striving or so thirsty and hungry for presence that you don't even need to say anything to them. You can change your life just by seeing them.
Doesn't take much.
That's it. What if you actually just saw your clients? You saw your lady, you saw your man, whatever it is, and you were there, right there with them. What I've also learned as well is that being born with no legs but arm, if my presence is strong enough, the body fades and they forget about my body. That's in relationships, dating, and that's within business, although I don't think it really matters. But especially with relationships and the dynamic with women, is that I've realized that, yes, physical attraction is one thing, but what's even deeper than physical attraction is energy attraction and presence attraction. And if I'm so present and I'm so dialed in and I'm right there with her, they often forget that I'm 3'5".
How did you overcome the limiting beliefs when it came to dating?
I'm still working on them. They still run very rampantly and very strong in my life. And I have seasons where I feel good and I have seasons where I'm not feel good. And what's really beautiful that we need to understand is the moments where you're triggered and the moments where you feel insecure and inadequate. Those are the most valuable moments because now you have the opportunity to work on yourself.
Amen.
If you've never felt insecure and you never felt inadequate and you always felt amazing, there is no opportunity for growth. And so when you have that level of awareness and that level of consciousness, you can then invite those insecure moments in because now you have an opportunity to identify what made me insecure. What was I focusing on? What was I creating that self-induced the feeling? Because let me tell you all this. Whatever you feel, you did it. Well, they triggered me. No, that was your own trigger.
It's your emotion.
That's you, bro. That's you, sister. Right? It's like the hallucination or the delusion that you're going to create a trigger-free world. Good luck. And so if someone triggers you internally, you should thank that person for triggering you because they're mirroring something that you need to work on. It's not them, boy. It's you. That's the gift, right? So for me, especially with navigating women and dynamic, I think this is a never-ending thing for me. I think this is deep-rooted inadequacy, deep-rooted not enough, and the physical body. I mean, there are real proofs of evidence where girls didn't want anything to do with me because of my physical body. So be it. But I think it's all about the frame and the meaning you attach to the experience. And what I've realized over my 28 years of life is that my physical body used to be a curse, but now it's my greatest gift because immediately if someone is not into it, it's an authentic filter that filters out right women and wrong women.
Absolutely.
Immediately. But it's also difficult. Everybody wants to be seen and everybody wants to be loved. But I had this great insight where, I was talking with a coach. And by the way, for those that are listening, and I'm sure you agree with this, if your coach doesn't have a coach, you need a new coach. We all got coaches, right? At least the good ones, the ones that continuously learn. And I was like, man, I'm feeling inadequate. He said, why are you feeling inadequate around women? And I said, well, I can't fight. If someone wanted to hurt someone, I couldn't fight. Or sometimes I can't open the door for them. Or I can't walk on the inside of the road so they feel more safe. And he said, do you realize there's men with all their arms and all their legs and they can't fight either? He said, do you realize there's men with all their arms and all their legs, yet they're not conscious enough to still open the door for the woman? He said, do you realize there's men with all their arms and all their legs that still don't walk on the inside of the road? He said, so you're creating your own inadequacy. And then he shifted focus and said, what are ways that you make women feel safe? What are ways that you make women feel like they're seen and they're heard? What are ways that you are a mature masculine man? And he shifted focus and the evidence was on what's right versus what's wrong. So regardless of having no legs, one arm, or having all your arms and all your legs, we all create our own inadequacies. But the question isn't how long, or the question isn't, am I going to feel inadequate? The question is, how long am I going to stay there? That's the shift. Because I don't care who you are, what net worth you are, what status you are. We all have those moments. But it's the difference between terrible moments and terrible days. That's the shift.
It's a shift in focus as well, isn't it? That is very powerful. Thank you for sharing that very vulnerable, intimate detail with us as well, brother. Really appreciate it. And I think it's deeply relatable to a lot of men who are going to be honest with themselves as well, men and women, in fact. I like to see those insecurities that we have as just another beautiful layer to our humanity. Nothing to be shamed, nothing to be ignored, but rather to be embraced. And in regards to the shift in focus, which you were explaining, one of my favorite recent quotes is, pessimism sounds intelligent, but optimism makes the money. I really like that. And I often tell my clients, and I think you'll like this, Nick, I tell my clients often that if you want to attain great levels of success in your life, be it socially, romantically, financially, you have to be delusional.
My favorite thing.
You have to delude yourself into the success. Next question I have for you is, what's a question that you wish more people would ask you?
It's a great question. I think, what are you struggling with right now? I think oftentimes you see these teachers and experts and gurus, and they position themselves as God. that there's nothing ever wrong. And I think when you do that, you get out of touch with the people who are in the trenches. You know, I'll let you answer the question, but just to give this explanation very quickly is, I think there's seasons of life, and very quickly I'll go through them. I think, you know, a lot of people are in fire, and they will do anything to get out of the fire and get into the water and cool themselves off. And so there's been so many times in our life where we're just in extreme pain, and we'll do anything to soothe the pain. And then you're in water and you kind of have some control, but in the water there's a current, so you really have to surrender. And you're swimming left and you're swimming right, and eventually maybe you land on shore. And shore, if you have legs, you put your feet in the sand and you get a little bit grounded, and you know you're finding your way and you have your path. And then once you get a lot of success on the ground, you start to elevate above the ground and you start to float in air. And you almost feel like you're on top of the world. The pendulum has swung, the money's coming in, the relationships are great. But if you spend too much time in the air, you lose empathy and compassion for people in the fire. And you disconnect from yourself, and you stop connecting with a massive part of your fan base or your supporters, because most people aren't in the air, they're in the fire and in the water. And so one of the questions that people don't ask, especially people like me or successful people, is like, what are you struggling with now? Because everybody just wants to show their highlight reels.
What are you struggling with right now?
I would say I struggle with purpose. And it's so interesting coming from someone who seems like he has all the purpose together and he's being an offering to the world. But I feel like I've killed off versions of myself because I felt like I needed to be a specific way to serve an audience. I feel like I've killed off version of myself because it was the right thing to do to gain acceptance and love. And so I'll give you an example. When I became a speaker, I killed off funny Nick. I killed off that inner child. I thought I had to be so serious and so strict because business and speaking and brr, and to prove my worth and to get the acceptance from that industry. And now that I've done it and I've become a master at communication and have all the success and accolades, I'm introducing that inner child back into my life. I want to now shift brand and inspire people with speaking, but in a funny way. Fitness in a funny way, motivation in a funny way, music in a childish playful way. And I think what I struggle with most is going back and forth. I'm like, will they love me? Will I be accepted? Will I be rejected? Is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? I think a lot of us are operating off a specific programming that's not even ours. We just picked it up along the way. And we're being someone that we think is the right way to do, but it's what society wants you to do. And so I'm just trying to find Nick. I think Nick's been lost for a little bit. I think that inner child has been buried, and I'm digging him out of the sand, and I'm welcoming back into my life.
That's beautiful. I love that, man.
Thank you, brother.
I'm happy for that process.
And I share that from a place of, we all struggle. And I think the more that you can be open about your struggles and how you're overcoming them, that's your true essence. It's one of the highest levels of communication is essence. People can speak in strategies, they can speak in tactics, but the two highest levels of communication are laws and our essence. Laws in the sense of law of cause and effect, law of exposure, law of energy conservation.
Yep.
If you start intertwining laws into your communication, no one can fight back against a law because it's law. So they're immediately bought in. So now you're building rapport and acceptance over the majority of the audience in the room because you can't negotiate a law. It's law. But the highest level of communication is what we call essence. And that's what God has set you to do. Share your struggles, share your insecurities, share the things that most people don't talk about. And you will connect with people on a way deeper level because most people are just sharing a highlight reel. And so I pride myself on my authenticity and my vulnerability and my essence and my open bookness because someone out there is going through the same thing, but also they look on the camera and go, he's human. And if he's human, it's obtainable to be at his level because he doesn't position himself as a God or someone who's perfect.
When you say essence, the word authenticity comes to mind. And that's a big struggle for a lot of people. To be authentic, to be truly themselves. What advice would you have for somebody who are struggling to truly be themselves when meeting people?
The first thing that I would say to you is have some grace and compassion for yourself, because it's not always your fault. Meaning, you grew up in a place where maybe it wasn't accepted to be authentic. You grew up in a place where maybe you watched someone near dear to you be authentic and get reprimanded for it or get punished for it. And so you picked up that story and belief along the way. So just have compassion for yourself. But the second thing that I would say is the two lowest vibrations are the desire for money and the desire for fame. And I think you and I, at least for me, I've been there. I've had a desire to be rich, and I've had a desire for fame. And if everything is energy, those are the two lowest vibrations. But the highest vibration that you can operate off of is the vibration of authenticity. And the more that you lean into authenticity, you start to attract magical things into your life. But check this out. If authenticity is something that is difficult for you, that should be the thing that you're pursuing. The path is the way, right? So whatever is most scary for you, whatever is most challenging for you, should be the very thing that you're pursuing. That's the fastest way to unwire and rewire the brain and elevate your brain, is to attack the thing that you're afraid of the most. And so in moments where you feel like you're being unauthentic or inauthentic, that's the pattern recognition. And then you have to override the pattern by being authentic. So that's what I would say is lean into moments where you could be authentic, lean into moments where you could be more vulnerable, and understand that if people snap back at you or if people don't like your authenticity, that's a clear indicator that they shouldn't be in your life.
Yep.
What if your authenticity was your human filter? It's the same thing with creating content. It's the same thing with speaking. I've spent so many years as a speaker trying to create a message that so everybody would love me. I spent too many years trying to get everybody to clap. I wanted no negative comments. I wanted no backlash. I wanted nothing. And it's the worst thing that you could do as a speaker. The best thing that you could do as a speaker is just create an authentic message, and it immediately qualifies and disqualifies the people in the room. Immediately. It's called shaking the branch. If life and your personal brand and speaking was a branch, and you share an authentic message, you're going to shake the branch, and the leaves that fall were the dead leaves that would never do business with you anyway. Yep. And the leaves that stay are the raving fans that will go near dear. They will go all in, and they will buy all your products and services because they relate to you. That's the greatest thing that you could do.
Man, I love that. I love that. It is, what did you say? A human filter?
Of course, human filter.
Yeah, I love that, because that is my belief as well with authenticity. When you're being yourself, you're going to attract the right people into your life. And the ones that you're not going to attract, they're not meant to be in your life anyway. And I think, well, I'll speak for myself. I noticed that about you. I don't know if you noticed that about me when we first met, but you would make certain jokes around people that maybe you hadn't met before. I made certain jokes when I met you for the first time. And when you allow your humor, and I see humor as a sign of enlightenment. I'm not saying I'm enlightened. I'm not saying you're enlightened, but moments of enlightenment. Humor and laughter and playfulness is a sign that you're present, deeply present to the moment, because what does playfulness and humor require? Spontaneity, right? And presence, deep presence. And when you allow that to come out, the people who resonate with it, who are present as well, they'll resonate with it and they'll show, and you end up building deep connections that way as well. So I think one other practical piece of advice that I would add to what you just said is make jokes and even allow yourself to laugh when you want to. Don't hold back your laughter. I think that's one of the saddest things human beings could do.
I love to laugh. Yeah. I think you and I, we've laughed a lot, even in the short amount of time that we spent together. We laugh a lot. And within the tactic of communication, this is what we call a disarm. You want to disarm, like, check this out. For those that are listening, because I know most of your audience are communicators or they want to elevate their communication skills, one of the greatest tools that you can use in communication is what we call a disarm. And I'll give you a great example. Whatever you think your weakness is, put it out in front of the audience before they can use it on you, and leverage it as a strength. I'll give you a great example. So, I have great keynotes where I don't use presentations. I know exactly where I am. And I was going into a 2-day event where I was teaching communication, and I'm laying in bed. I'm like, what are they going to say about my notes? Nick never has notes. And I was like, Nick, just disarm. And so immediately you get on stage and you say, you do your thing and be like, real quickly, I have so much to give you. I have so much value to give you, and I want to stay on time because I respect your time. Would it be okay with you if every now and then I just check my iPad to make sure that I'm delivering the value that I need? Is that okay? Yes, no problem, Nick. Now I just use what I thought was a weakness as a strength.
Oh, that's
You
powerful.
can disarm anything,
That's
anytime.
authentic as well.
Put it out in front of you.
Man.
Put that weakness out in front of you and use it as a strength, and it'll totally shift your whole physiology, and you'll be chilling.
I love that. I love that. One last question I want to ask you, bro, is have you ever encountered somebody that's tried to use your story in a way that you didn't agree with, and how did you handle it?
Can you give me an example?
For example, has anybody approached you or had a conversation with you, and I'm sure they thought they were being harmless, but they try to fit you into a certain box, like an inspirational guru type of box, and you had to kind of tell them, it's like, bro, like who I am on stage isn't who I am, right? Well, it is, but it's not the complete picture of who you are. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think the big thing is exactly what you said, of people trying to put me into the box of motivational speaker. I don't like the term because motivation doesn't last, transformation lasts, and so I disarm it. I disarm it on stage as well. I'll be like, I am not in the business of motivation. I am in the business of transformation. And if we're going to get a real transformation here today, I got to show you parts of you that you cannot see, so you can have breakthroughs that you cannot see that are going to change the quality of your life. Is that okay? Say yes. But I have to disarm it. I have to get out in front of it, because when you get on stage or you come into a meeting, people already have these assumptions about who you are and what you do. But as a great communicator, you use those opportunities where people put you in a specific box to exercise your ability to get them out of that box and into a new frame of thinking. And so I look at it as a blessing, because it now gives me an opportunity to exercise my muscle of communication. But it's going to happen. People are going to put you in a specific box. They're going to put me in a specific box. And maybe we take accountability, and it's something that we're doing within our branding and our messaging and the way that we present ourselves that is having people have these specific assumptions and putting ourselves in a box. But absolutely. And I think as communicators, if something comes up like that, we got to address it and we got to get in front of it.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And to wrap up, what's one thing that you wish people knew about you that most people don't know?
That my number one dream is to be a famous singer and rapper, and that I have a whole entire album that is getting released in a couple weeks.
Really?
And I have some famous features, like really big artists that are on it, and no one has any idea that Nick does this type of stuff. And I'm really good. And I hid that dream because one day someone told me that I wasn't good enough. And I wonder where I'd be if I never listened to people in the external world. And so remember, most is caught, not taught. And most of your beliefs aren't yours. You picked them up along the way. And where would you be if you didn't let the opinions of others stop you from achieving the very things that you wanted to achieve?
Wow. Okay, that was unexpected. What's your rap name?
Santo.
Santo?
Yeah, so my full name is Santonastasso.
Yeah.
So it's just like Santo.
Santo.
Yeah.
Should we do some freestyle real quick?
He's put me on the spot, right? It's important. And I think oftentimes we put ourselves in one box of creativity, and we're limiting other ways of expression. You know, communication is one way of expression, and I'm sure there's things that you used to do as a little boy, as a little kid, that give don't do because we fell into the trap of being an adult.
Yeah,
it's like we're all kids in an adult body. Some of us are still 3'5", but give yourself permission to express and create in ways that really fire you up, because I believe your greatest ideas and your greatest downloads come from moments of leisure where you're not focused on business. You're focused on play.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, man. That is the epitome of limitless, my friend. Nick, thank you so much for today, brother. We're definitely going to do a part 2 now that you're living here in Dubai.
Yes.
Really appreciate you having on. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn at Nick Santonastasso, but the easiest way is Nick Santo. I'm the most handsome man with no legs and one arm. You can't miss me.
There you have it. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you.
You got it.
Thank you, guys.